Hey everyone, so this is Rosewood, Season 2, Episode 6, called Toxins and Three Stories. The episode, starts off with Rosie talking with Kayla and giving her Disney World tickets, but Kayla's kind of giving her a hard time, and anybody who doesn't really remember who Kayla is at the moment, she is Tanya's daughter. Um, and later at the precinct, Rosie tells Villa to date Adrian, because she's seeming hesitant to do that. When a guy comes up and tells them that they still have nothing on a cold case. Rosie says that he has an idea of how to solve it, so he and Villa go to a class that is taught by a close friend of Rosie's, and it's on advanced forensic anthropology, or not anthropology, pathology. Um, they bring the students the cold case, and one of the victims, because there's two victims in this case, one of the victims' name, the first that they start talking about, is Elena Santiago. Her father is the driving force behind not wanting the duo to exhume Elena's body. So they divide the two groups up into one team for Rosie, one team for Villa, to go back through Elena's body. Rosie's team will go through every bit of collected evidence. Rosie's team will go over Elena's body. Rosie managed to have a 3D picture or scan of Elena's body to be taken before she was buried. So there's that. Rosie's team says Elena has old brain tissue, probably from playing soccer. I don't know. They didn't necessarily say it was from soccer, but they didn't necessarily say it was from when she was attacked and killed. Who knows? Anyway, and she also has repeated strangulation marks, several rib fractures, and they think that she was brought to the brink of death, or killed and then resuscitated several times before she died, which before she was finally killed, which explains the several rib fractures and the repeated strangulation marks. Via's team thinks Jody Carvel, Lena's best friend, would have some new information, even though she was abroad at the time. Rosie says he and Via came to the same conclusion. So in a flashback, they talk to they're seen talking to Jody, and says that she was distant from her father, that Elena was distant from her father emotionally, and only got into soccer because her father wanted her to. We find out that Jody and Elena were quote unquote the mean girls, but were giving constructive criticism to other players, including a girl named Misty, who was later included into Elena and Jody's clique because of Elena herself. Elena then, we find out, bought prenatal vitamins, but she wasn't necessarily pregnant at the time she died. She was previously pregnant, though. She was. So Via and Rosie had previously questioned the baby's father, or supposed baby's father, Vaz. Vaz and Elena dated on and off in high school. Elena apparently miscarried, then dumped Vaz for an older guy. The students asked who the secret crush was, but Rosie and Via told them to figure it out. So students think that if Rosie and Via, or that they talk to Misty, they can then figure out who the guy she was, I guess you could say dating. Rosie and Via then say Misty is dead as well. And she was taken 2 days after Elena and then killed, or 2 days after Elena was found and killed, and was killed as well. So Rosie believes they're looking at a serial killer. Rosie has Misty's body exhumed, and as they prepare the body, Pippi asks her TMI to cover her later because she has a date. Rosie doesn't take Misty's mother's call because he's given her nothing but no news for the past for a while now, and he's thinking about Kayla, and if what happened with Misty and Elena were to happen with Tanya, concerning Kayla. Misty's mother, he then calls Misty's mother back. I don't think we ever find out her name, but so she comes in and meets the students helping Rosie, and so they ask her what Misty was like alive. Misty and Elena both, according to, or as Misty's mother says, Misty and Elena both had absent fathers. Misty knew that Elena caused pain because she was in pain herself, and Misty refused to let her past haunt her. And she continued to go on about other things about Misty. And so later we find out Misty's body was found in the woods, and evidence was washed away because of the rain. The night that she was found. When the students were asked what they think of Misty's body, Rosie's team says they aren't looking for the serial killer after all, but Villa's team says that because Misty was a fighter, according to Misty's mother, that she managed to get away from the killer for a short period of time before she was ultimately killed, which would explain why her injuries were, I guess you could say, lighter, and there are no signs of being killed and resuscitated multiple times. So there's that. Rosie tells the students to get together for 20 minutes and talk. 20 minutes later, the two teams have merged now and think that both girls were held in a nearby cabin in the woods since Misty was found in the woods. And they think the blisters on Misty's back were from a specific tree. Can't remember what they were, or what the tree was called, but the sap blisters you if you get it on any part of your body. And they took x-rays of Misty and found metaphysical lines that weren't detected 10 years ago due to the equipment at the time. The lines indicated lead poisoning, which Misty would have gotten from an underground bunker. And in flashbacks, it shows Villa and Rosie finding one with a Falcons sports duffel bag, which is the name of the soccer team that Misty and Elena were on, in the bunker. All the evidence collected points to Gerald, the same Gerald that Donna has been talking to and on trying to get acquitted and everything. And he was the head soccer coach at the time. Rosie says his family thinks Gerald's innocent, but he's not so sure. And so the reason why he's called or asked the students for help is because he's lost perspective on it. Later, Rhea and Rosie paint a picture of Gerald as they were doing with Misty and Elena, and how they lived their lives before they were killed. A blood stain was found on one of the victim's pants that partially matched to Gerald. The ace in the hole about Gerald being a killer was that Gerald was abusive towards women. Previously had charges brought up against him for abusing women. One of them was expunged when one of the women recanted their story. Michelle, Gerald's daughter, you come to find out, was in trouble with the law with petty offenses and stuff, and disappeared 6 months prior to both girls being killed. When watching a video of Gerald taken the day he was arrested, they find blisters from the poison, or not really from the specific poisonous tree, but blisters on its right arm. So they pretty much agreed that he must have been there when Misty was, or in the same general area when Misty was killed. Rosie and Donna then visit Gerald, and Rosie confronts him with the evidence of the blisters, and he admits he was there when Misty died. We come to find out that the reason he was in the woods was because he got a tip that his daughter Michelle was in the woods was in the woods and was there around the time, was supposed to be there, um, when close by to where Misty was. Then, elsewhere in the lab, Pippi's date arrives, and TMI finds out that she had gone out with the girl last week. TMI says, Pippi, go ahead, date whoever you want, but Pippi, take your wallet, because this girl, what she does is, when the check comes, she's like, oh, I can't pay for it, and everything. It was like, okay, well, good looking out, TMI, good looking out. Anyway, so later when Rosie comes back to the lab, one of the students who Via nicknamed Nip Tuck because he wanted to go into plastic surgery, is waiting for Rosie, and he has an idea about the case. The DNA found on Gerald wasn't his, or not. The DNA found on, I think it was Misty's pants. It isn't Gerald's. It's someone related to him, but it's not specifically him, because previously, when investigating the original case, detectives thought that the DNA was contaminated, but still Gerald's. But what Nip Tuck was thinking was that the reason why the DNA only partially matched Gerald was because it wasn't specifically his. It was someone who was related to him, meaning it was Michelle's DNA, because as we found out earlier, she has been missing for 6 months. And they find out that a number called Gerald, that told him that his daughter, or someone who looked like his daughter, was in the woods, so that they can get him there and frame him for the murders. Rosie then talks to Kayla later, Rosie then talks to Kayla about her apprehensions about him dating her mother. And kind of they do this little pickup basketball game, I guess you could say, where if every basket that she gets, she can ask him any question she wants and he'll answer it. Then after that, Rosie then goes to Gerald, tells him that he's on his side, that the killer most likely knew Gerald. Elena and Misty was watching Gerald for a long time before the killer killed the two girls. Since that's the whole episode, I will say this. I will say that it's looking like Gerald is not the killer. I'm not going to 100% say for certain that he isn't the killer. I'll say it's most like the percentage of him being the killer in my mind is 20%, 20 to 30%. So I'm not gonna 100% say for certain that he's not the killer. There's still the chance that he could have just, had someone call him. I'm not saying this is true, but I mean, there's still a chance that someone called him and to make it look like he was being set up, and therefore not the person that killed the girls. But I mean, it's I'm starting to kind of slowly get there where that he most likely is not the killer. I still kind of think that it's a little too convenient that he is being found not being. I still find it a little bit too convenient that he is all of a sudden being framed. It still seems kind of convenient to me, so that's why I'm still hesitant to say for 100% for sure that he's not the killer, because it just seems like it's just like I said, a little too convenient that he's just all of a sudden not the killer. I don't know, but I will grant them that the father is sketchy. The father is really sketchy as all get out, or the father of Elena is all sketchy as all get out, and that it's not too far-fetched that someone would, you know, someone would use Gerald's missing daughter as a way to get him to the woods so that they could frame him. I am thinking that the baby that Elena supposedly had with Vaz is not the baby's. I mean, the baby Vaz is not Elena's baby's. It's not Elena's father, baby's father. I'm thinking she only pretended that it was his because she only pretended that it was Vaz's baby so that the older guy that she was crushing on and dating wouldn't find out that he was the father. Or it could be that if in case that her pregnancy came out, she didn't want people to know that she was sleeping with an older guy who is most likely married. So that's what I'm thinking, is that she had a baby with the older guy, like the older guy was the baby's father. I don't think that she spontaneously miscarried. I think she had. I'm thinking she had the baby and gave it up for adoption, and therefore the older guy couldn't get custody of the baby because he was older and everything. And as we know from society, people judge women more harshly for having slept with married men, rather than placing equal responsibility of sleeping of affairs on both the women who have affairs with married men and the married men who are stepping out on the wives. So I mean that's I don't want to say always been the case. That's been mostly the case for at least the last like 100 years, or not, well, maybe not 100 years, like 50, 60, 70 years. So it's a good portion of the last 100 years that's been the case, if not longer than that. So yeah, so that's what I'm thinking, is that Lena had a baby with the older married guy, and I say married because it's kind of weird that she wouldn't. I mean, if the guy wasn't married, but if the guy was older, or if the guy wasn't married but still older, I doubt she wouldn't have said anything. I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of taboo for a 17-year-old to be dating a older guy. But I mean, I doubt she wouldn't have said anything. At all. I doubt she wouldn't have said anything about the guy, including his name. So I'm thinking the reason why she didn't say anything about the guy to anybody except to Vaz was because of the fact that he was married. Like, he was married. So that's what I'm thinking, that he was married, and that the only reason why Vaz found out was, I think, because he stumbled upon it or something like that. But I mean, what's her name? What's her name? Her best friend Jody Jody, Jody was Elena's best friend. So why didn't Elena say anything to Jody about this older guy? The only reason I can think of is because he wasn't, not only was he was older, but he had to have been married. Otherwise, she would have said something. She would have said something, even if, I mean, she would have said something to Jody, even if the guy was older and not married. Elena would have said something, because they're supposed to be best friends. So that's the only reason why I could think of, is that the guy was married. So I'm thinking the older married guy was the baby's father. Elena didn't want the older guy to find out, because if that were the case, the guy would have said either get an abortion or try to take the baby away. Well, now that I think about it, maybe she did get an abortion and didn't miscarry. Because I mean, she had prenatal vitamins, so I think she was initially planning on keeping the baby, but when she realized that the baby was the older guy's instead of Vaz's, she was like, either she was like, maybe I shouldn't have this guy's baby, and so therefore I'm gonna this older guy's baby, so therefore I'm gonna have an abortion, or she was told by the older guy to get an abortion, so she did it anyway. So either she had an abortion or the baby's alive. She actually gave birth to the baby, and the baby's alive somewhere, so the older guy wouldn't be able to take away the baby from her. So it's one of those two. That's what I'm thinking. I'm leaning more towards the baby is alive, just because. That's what I'm thinking. Who knows if I'm right or not. Now, as far as like the blood from being Michelle's that was found on, I think it was Misty. I think Michelle is dead. I think she's dead. I think that's why they found Michelle's blood on Misty's body, was because how else could have gotten there? I mean, yeah, she could have cut herself, but like, or because she cut herself, like some of the blood was, transferred onto there. But I think she died, like she was killed by the Elena and Misty's killer, and some of the blood was transferred onto Misty's clothes. So that's what I think. So that that way the killer could get Gerald there to frame him. So that's what I think. Now, sorry. So with all that said, those are my predictions now. So with all that done, next week we don't really see what the next week's case could be about. All we see are Rosie in bed with Tanya, Rosie in the shower, Tanya coming in to take a shower with him, Via out in the club with TMI, Donna, and Pippi, and this guy coming up wants some nuts, and she's like, not if you want to keep yours, and all this stuff. So we see all of that, but we don't see anything about next week's case of the week. So I am not really gonna make any predictions on next week's episode either, because there's really not much you can predict for that. So that all said, I will see you guys next week on Rosewood, and on Monday for elementary. Bye.